How's it going, everybody? Today we've got a special project going on. We are going to rate every card in Echoes of Eternity. So I'm going to do it through the Eternal client and then going back to the community draft survey that Jed the Homarid set up, and I'll be putting in my ratings there. What it's going to be is this isn't going to be like a necessarily draft, like I'm just going it on, like it's basically for draft picks, like it's draft oriented, but I also like it's just like my quick opinions on the card, like where do I rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Like it's just gonna be snap picks. Like I'm not gonna some of the cards I might go a little bit in depth into, but it's gonna be like this is a quick hot take video basically. So let's go. Starting with whoa. What's going on here? Okay. Accept. Okay, then we go back. Alright. Blazing Salvo. Good card. Now we'll talk about a little bit. I'm just going to note this before we really get started. I am going to note some constructed applications and what I've seen in constructed, just like a little bit of experiences. Alright, let's get on with it. Blazing Salvo, 2 damage. It's got to be to a unit. It's a fast spell. You can swap 2 cost card in your market for a card in your hand. Really good card. I love this card. In draft specifically, not super fantastic. You might have like a couple of 2-drops. Like you could have a stranger that you didn't want to run main board, possibly. The influence faction strangers, but those are pretty good. So usually you're probably gonna want to run them in the main board anyways. But I mean, there might be something if you have too many playables, which from what I've been hearing, I haven't played a draft yet, and you'll see a draft coming out soon on my channel. But I haven't really played a lot of draft and with these cards, and I haven't played in this format with a new stranger switch up. But 2 damage to a unit, fast speed, that's good enough to run in draft. Like, boom, that's almost a char. Doesn't deal the damage to a player, but it does it to a unit, and it's at fast speed like you want. So, man, it's kind of hard to rate things 1 to 10. 1 is stuff you don't play. 10 is stuff you always play. 5s are like your playables, like those playables on up. That's how I'm using the rating system, at least. So I'd say Blazing Salvo is a 6. I'm gonna mark them as I go, just so I have them to reference. Now, you know what? I could just listen to this while. I think I'll just listen to this while I'm going through, so I can just jump, so I don't have to mess with the clipboard. Fury Blade, 1 cost, 2/1 relic weapon. Gets boosted with all the relic weapons energies. You know, you can get it from your discard pile with certain cards, or your void. They call it the void in this game. And it gets buffs when you have weapon buffs. You can search it from your deck with stuff like Blade Crafter. So it's got a lot of stuff synergetic with it, and it does a lot of the things that Blazing Salvo does. So I'd say this is a 7, and if you're, you know what? I would say it's a 6. It's a solid 6. Did I rate Blazing Salvo a 7? I'll know in a second when I go back and listen to it. But I'm going to go ahead and say Fury Blade's a 6. Alright. What else I gotta say about Fury Blade? There's not too much there to like really evaluate. I mean, it's a good card. Gets you some decent removal. It trades up sometimes. It can't trade down really unless you're killing like half a card. So yeah, there's that. Kazuo, Melee Virtuoso, 1-drop, 2/1. When you play a relic weapon like Fury Blade, you get to put a +1 weapon with Overwhelm on Kazuo. Nice thing about that, just like stopping there. Nice thing about that is if he dies, you can get the weapon back from your void and play it on another card and give it whatever buffs. If you have weapon synergies, it has relic synergy. But if you have other weapon synergies, then he's supported by that, or he supports that. Then of course he's got ultimate. You get to pay 4 to invoke. Yeah, okay, so we're good. And then you can ult to pay 4 and invoke fire. Okay, really awesome card. Like, even though it's a 1-drop, it's super solid playable 1-drop. I would say he's a 6, another 6 here, maybe a 7, 6.5 if that's a rating. I don't know if that's a rating or not, but I'll probably just round up to 7. I might be crazy, I might be overrating him, but the reason being is because of what I've been hearing lately on the podcast. I think, who said it today? Like, I've heard it in 2 different places, but specifically Eternal Journey, I think, mentioned, they would mention in their 50 Takes at 50 Minutes podcast. Go ahead to Eternal Journey's podcast on YouTube or anywhere you find podcasts. I think I do Podcast FM. I think that's the app I use. But they mentioned that they've been calling it Winvoke, because Invoke is so good. So paying 4 to Invoke is not bad, especially on a 1-drop. Like, that's just awesome upside on an ultimate. And what Jedi and Darth Herman 2 and John Julio were saying about it is that it doesn't really like matter what rarity the card is to invoke. It gives you your choice of the 3 cards, but it does, like, it's equally rated. Like, there's no weight to legendaries or rares. So like, you'll get cards that normally you wouldn't see in draft, like really high rated cards. So just a quick spiel about that. So I rate this card as, let's just round it up to a 7. Kindling Carver. Okay, now this card is a beast in standard. It's like a little engine, and he can, 1-drop 1/1, Kindling Carver, exhaust him, and sack another unit to draw a card and reduce its cost by 1 this turn. At the end of your turn, discard the card. Now, let's see. So, I would say this is a good reason to be in the sacrifice deck, and it's like just a solid engine. It's getting you the like really good strong cards in your deck and filtering you through to that. But you have to have a lot of fodder for it to really work, because by itself, a 1-drop 1/1, it's kind of meh. Now I might be wrong here, but I would say he is a 4 and a build around maybe a higher ranking build around. Like, he gets 2 points for when you're building around him. So he's like a 5.5 or anywhere up to 7 even, I would say, if you have like, depending on your sacrifice synergies. Runa's Burst. This card's pretty good. I think it's fallen down a little bit from what I've been hearing, because the spell damage synergies have fallen down in the ranks. It's 1 damage, fast spell, dealing 1 damage to 2 enemies. So you could take out some solid threats. You could ping the opponent for 1, destroying their Fury Blade, for example, and hit their Cosmo. Those are the cards we just looked at, but you know what I mean. You can do stuff like that. There's a good number of X attack, 1 health cards out there. And it's fast spell. It does get affected by spell damage. So what am I going to rate Runa's Burst? I'm going to rate Runa's Burst a 5. It's a playable card. I would say it's definitely a playable card. You're not going to always take it, but when you do and it works out, it can be pretty solid. Covetous Stranger. 2-drop 2/1. Whenever 1 or more strangers attack, their owners create and draw a treasure trove. Okay, I like Covetous Stranger. I run it a good bit in Expedition. I love treasure troves. That card, the fact that like it's getting a card advantage in red, it's just really nice, really nice. It's a kind of the thing is it's a 2-drop 2/1, so you're not getting much of a tempo loss until you play it, and there's other stuff you could have played instead. But if you're out of possible like things to do, then that's where Covetous Stranger really like gives you that value. It's not necessarily like true that you never want to play your treasure troves when you have other things that you could have done, like if you're searching for answers, but that's where you're getting your tempo loss that I'm talking about. Other than that, there's not much tempo loss. So other than that, it's like really good. For stranger synergies, it does give your opponent some advantage, but I think that it's not that big of a deal, really. Like, it can be, but it's not like threatening. It gets you to where you want to be, and I think it's better in like those 3 faction builds, where you need to keep getting cards. So I'm gonna give Covetous Stranger A 5. I think he's solidly playable. Let's see, Cato or Reno Herald. Now this is a legendary, but I am going to rate it. All the legendaries and everything are going right into the mix with the commons, uncommons, and rares. So Cato or Reno Herald's a 2-drop 2/1. Summon, you get a 0 in totem height. But if you had 10 or more units in your void, you get an 8/8 giant instead. It also has corrupted ones, you can do it again. Really great late game card. Decent early game card, and man, this card just slots right into your sacrifice deck. It gives you a reason to be in the sacrifice deck too, like it's your win con essentially at the end of the game. It could be really nice. So for that, I think Cato is like really easily an 8. Like it's just like an 8 right there. It seems like it's a small effect, but it just does everything you really need for that strategy. Maybe like a build around 8 and just normally a 7. I feel pretty strongly about Cato. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but alright. Seer, 9. Boom. I am serious. Serious, get it? Okay, anyways. Deals 3 damage at fast speed. It's like Torch, but 1 more. And then limited, that's even less of a problem, especially in a slow limited format like this. Dealing 3 damage at fast speed is great. And I've heard nothing bad about Seer so far from what I listened to. So I think Seer's excellent. Excellent card. 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10. Just premium removal. Quick removal. Not unconditional, but quick. Maybe that makes it like an 8.5. We're going to go with 9. Okay. Soul Drain Smithing. Draw a weapon from your void. It's a 2-cost fire spell. It says draw a weapon from your void. And each weapon in your deck gets +1 attack. Okay. It and each weapon in your deck get +1. Now that, if you have like, I would say 5 weapons, that's solid. That's really good. Just like giving that bonus, like on a relic weapon or on a normal weapon, just to pop off the top, boom, you got it going on with that bonus. Now, drawing a weapon from your void is what I was talking about earlier with the cards like Fury Blade. You know, so it's kind of nice. What do I give it though? I feel like it's definitely a more build aroundy card, but if you're in that, I would say normally it's just like a I'll give it a 3, but like if you're building around it, I give it more of like a 5. You're gonna want 1. I don't know if you're gonna want like 2. Totem Pioneer, 2-drop 1/2 fire Totemite Explorer. When you draw your second card in a turn, you get +2 power this turn. You can pay 4 to give one of your other units +4 attack and overwhelm this turn. So 2 really strong abilities. I think the first one isn't as big of a deal in limited. I think it's kind of the, okay, it's there, it can happen, it can give you some crazy like aggro turns. But the second ability is like solid. It can get your creatures to push through. Even in a board stall, it's powerful enough to push through in a board stall, and that's a lot for a 2-drop 1/2 package. So I'm going to give Totem Pioneer a solid 6.5, if that's an option. I needed to have checked if there was 0.5s. So I'm just going to go ahead and round up and say 7. 7 for Totem Pioneer. Boom. Volatility. Draw, okay, 2-drop fire spell, not fast, just normal slow. Draw each spell and dragon with cost 5 or more from the top 10 cards of your deck, put the rest in the bottom. This thing was crazy awesome in the Expedition ECQ. Pardon me. But it's a 2. It's a 2 in draft. Build around 3. It's hard to get a solid build around with that unless you're like playing a constructed deck. Yeti Cookmaster. I have heard nothing about this since like the early impressions, but let's go ahead and throw it out here. 2-cost fire Yeti Cultist. It's a 1/1 Yeti Cookmaster. When you draw a card, it gets +2 attack this turn for the Yeti Cookmaster. So it's just a 3/1 for 2. I would say it's a 4. Honestly, if we're doing 0.5s, I'd say 3.5. I'm not very fond of Yeti Cookmaster. It's 1-1 on your opponent's turn, unless you're drawing cards on their turn. Let's go to Assault Shield here. It's a 3-drop, 0 attack, 2 armor, Assault Shield, relic weapon. Summon +1 attack for each of your units. So this is a pretty interesting card. Like, you're getting a benefit for playing that unit armory combo. So I think it's kind of hard to set up, honestly, but I still give it a. I think you're gonna have at least, like, on average 2 units out. So 3 cost, 2/2 with potential for a lot greater and a little bit less. Relic weapon, 4. I give it a 4 because it could be good removal. So I think it's pretty, like, you're willing to build around that. Burning Core Drake, 3 cost, double fire influence, 3/1 flying, and it has reckless. It's a Nightmare Dragon. Now you got Mastery 9. You create and draw 3 treasure troves. So that's pretty sick. Like, that mastery ability is actually pretty viable, especially if you can get through without getting removed and without them having flyers to answer it. If you can get those 3 treasure troves, I think that's an excellent amount of value. It's like comparable to, what's the darn card called? It's Distillation. Nahid's Distillation. I mean, it's different than Nahid's Distillation because you can cast in intervals of 2 costs and it doesn't get the cost reduction unless you count. It's a little bit different. But I mean, just hitting them 3 times in the face with your 3/1 flyer for 3, whew, this card is just awesome. I actually ran it in the Expedition ECQ when I did Skycrag Dragons, and it was awesome there too. So, and it's a common, so you can run it in your Pauper decks if you're building Pauper. Okay, so what do I rate it? 6.5. Let's give it a 7. Ooh, the influence cost, that pushes the 0.5 off. I wasn't thinking. 6. It is a 6. Final answer. Okay. Fire Conjuring. 3 costs, double fire influence, fast spell. Your units get +2 attack this turn. Decimate to invoke fire. Okay. Now. Okay. So I think it's just a 5. I think it's a 5. It's rally with upside. The influence is kind of constraining, but the invoke kind of makes up for it, even though you got to decimate for it. If you're towards the end of the game, you got like 3 or 4 units out, maybe it breaks the board stall, but also maybe it gets you a crazy legendary or a rare card that just, like, your opponent won't be able to answer. So yeah, 5, just right in the middle. Mark Maker, I love this card. I thought I didn't like it when I first was hearing about it and seeing it in the spoilers way back when the set first came out. 3-drop fire, 3/2, Oni. You summon it and put a +1 weapon with Overwhelm on one of your other units, and it has Corrupted 2, so you can put another weapon once it dies. It turns into a shade. You pay 2, sack it. It's got 2 health. Okay, so this card, it's basically like a 4/2 for 3, split amongst 2 creatures, 1 being a weapon. So you gotta have another unit out when you play it. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'd say this one's a solid 6. Yep, Mark Maker's a 6. Shavka's Loot. 3 cost. Now this is legendary, so keep that in mind. 3 cost, fire, Shavka's Loot. Your single faction units, they have Warcry. And then you got the Spellcraft 4 to play Obliterate. So you're paying 7 for Obliterate and this awesome relic for the Warcry business. You can also pay 5 and sacrifice 2 units to play a 7/7 dragon with flying and overwhelm. Steelbound dragon to be exact. So this card is pretty hard for me to evaluate here. The Warcries, okay. I like the Obliterate a lot. It's really late for Warcry. Like, I mean, turn 3 is not late. It's not early though. So if it just said your single faction units have Warcry 3 cost relic, I think that would be like a 3. 7 cost Obliterate by itself, I would say that's like I think it's a 7 in that regard. Now it's modal, So you can have either of those, and potentially both of those. Yeah. And then it's also got just the added benefit for being a little bit of sacrifice energy. If you got some fodder, you can get giant win conditions. Like, I mean, if you sacrifice 2 good creatures and you're paying 5, getting a 7/7 dragon's not nothing to sneeze at, especially when you can do it again and again. Okay, so overall, now that I'm reading this card and really thinking about it, I think this card's an 8. I think that this card's a solid 8. Next card, Touch of Force. 3 cost, fire, fast spell. Give one of your units double damage. Then give a unit, weapon, or spell in your hand double damage. I think that this card is a 3. So, it's got some potential. It can boost your removal, make your units get there. I think it's a 3. Blade Crafter. I think this is a solid card. 4 cost, fire, 2/2 Oni. Summon, you get to draw a weapon of your choice from your deck, corrupted 6 to do it again. Alright. So you can get your win condition out with this card. I don't think this is so much of a build around. You just have to make sure you got like 1 or 2 weapons that you really want. It's nicer to have options, but I think this card is playable if you have like 2 weapons at least. Maybe 3. Because it's kind of awkward to not have any weapons in your deck, even if it's kind of iffy on the weapon. This obviously fluctuates depending on how much of a build round it is, how much synergy you have with weapons, what kind of weapons you got, how many you got. Like, that can give us some bonus points, but I say straight up it's a 6. Like, without having to build around except for getting your baseline to level 5 weapons. If you got like 2 level 5 and above weapons, she's a 6. Anything to boost that, she gets better and better. Tattoo Dragon. Oh, awesome card. 4 cost, fire, Nightmare Dragon. It's a 4/3. It's got flying, it's got pledge. When you draw your second card in a turn, you get a 2/2 Oni Grunt. The 4-drop 4/3, that's really good. Does die to some pretty, like, unversatile removal. Like, stuff just hits it. It gets killed by a lot of different stuff. But it's a flying card, so it has that evasion boost. I think this is a solid 7. Maybe 7.5 if we're doing that. Just to throw it out there for everybody who cares about the 0.5s. 7.5. And it just, like, can be an engine. Like, it can be even better if you're just getting cards to draw. Like, if you have 1 kindling card, this thing's got a lot of potential. But it has some setup costs in that at that point. But you can keep stacking the Oni Grunts to keep playing the Oni Grunts, attacking with the Oni Grunts. So you're just drawing cards. That's awesome. So yeah, 7.5. Dancing Flame. Fate. Dancing Flame gets charge, or +2/+2, or its cost is reduced by 2. Forgot to say it's a 5-drop 4/4 elemental. So when you draw it, it either becomes a 4/4 charge, a 6/6, or instead of being a 5 cost of those 2, it's a 3 cost 4/4. All 3 modes are good. You don't get to choose. It doesn't show up. None of that. We've already figured that out. It's completely random. So I'd say it's a 5. Easily a playable card. Any 3 of those, even though you don't get to pick or have any idea what's coming. All those are playable in a red, like, build. Inferno Zealot. Not super fond of this guy. He's a 3. Maybe 3.5. He's a 5 cost, 8/1, Overwhelm Pledge. He's pretty scary for your opponent if they don't have answers, and it's late game, and the board's kind of solved on both sides because it's an extra bit of push, but not much scarier than a Seer, I would say. A Seer is about as good as him, but he costs more, and he's not targeted, so it's like a Seer to the face. It can be a lot better, but it can be a whole lot worse too. All I need is removal. So I think he's a 3.5. 5 cost, Maybe he's better than I'm giving him credit for, but that's the case with probably a lot of these. So just keep that in mind. Take what I say with a grain of salt. Defer to some experts or me later on when I've kind of got an idea of the draft format. So Thunder of Wings. 5 costs, play a 4/2 flying dragon with charge. This is a spell, by the way. And you can exhaust a unit to play it for 2 less. The spell, Thunder of Wings. So it could be a 3-cost 4/2 dragon with flying and charge with the additional cost of exhausting a creature, or a 5-cost 4/2 flying dragon with charge. I think that this is an 8. That's really strong. It's a really good. A lot of versatility there. Really aggressive in a format that kind of needs aggressive cards to like push, and it's got potential to, you know, trade with something big in the air. Let's go to the Midias. Leyline Dragon. 6-cost fire, 5/5, flying overwhelm. When you draw a power card, create and draw a treasure trove. When you play a spell, Midias gets plus attack equal to the cost of that spell this turn. He's a Nightmare Dragon. So he's got some spell synergy. He's got some treasure trove synergy. He's also legendary, if I didn't already say that. I think he's a solid 8. 8 out of 10. Maybe 9. Let's go to Stone Powder Bomber. 6-cost fire, 5/4 Oni. It has Exalted on your turn. So it's more aggressive of a 6-drop. It's a common. So if it does get destroyed and you got another unit out and it's your turn, then you can give that bonus that you kind of paid for with the 6-cost to something else. So he's alright. He's not super fantastic. I would say he gets a 5. He's a playable card. Shavka Stranger. 7-cost fire, legendary, 9/6 Stranger. When a player plays a Stranger, including Shavka Stranger, it deals 3 damage to a non-Stranger enemy. When Shavka Stranger attacks, you get +1 power this turn for each of your units. Okay. So this card's pretty strong. I would say it kind of fits into being... It's pretty strong with a 7-cost. And the 7-cost, from what I've heard, is not unreasonable in this format. And it is a big beater with a burn spell attached to it. So I would say it is 6.5. You're more than happy to take this card. Shugo's Hook Sword. I hear Shugo's Hook Sword all over the place. It's another 7-cost fire, 7/5 uncommon. When you deal damage, play it with 2/2 Odic Rut. So if you're hitting face with this thing, or if you're hitting an enemy unit, you're getting a little protector for your hooked sword, which is fantastic. It could deal with really big units. If it hits face, like, I mean, you're getting so much value, it's crazy. But that's kind of win more at that point, or just win. You know, it's just win. So I would say Shugo's Hook Sword. It's a real reasonable card. I would say it gets an 8. It's worth taking. It's worth targeting as a card and, you know, getting it. Alright. Hammerhand. This card is almost like so much influence it's unreasonable. 8-cost fire, 10/5. Summon to deal 5 damage to 2 enemies. It's a rare. You get corrupted 5, so you can pay 5 to deal 5 damage to 2 more enemies. Really strong card. But really expensive as far as the power cost. So, as a giant card. So I would say that this card in particular, I would say you pick it as a 5. Like, it's playable, you can get there, but it's like kind of a build around-y 5, 6. It could be like you win the game when this thing actually lands, because you're just clearing 2 of their giant flyers out, or 2 of their big units out, or hitting when their unit's hitting face, and that clears their board for their last big unit. You've got something sitting there to block. If it kills another one of their big creatures, you get to do that again. Like, it's just like all kinds of crazy stuff. It gives you a reason to go to 8, but it's just kind of hard to get there. So I think it's definitely a strong card. Here's even higher up on the scale. Shavka's Embrace. 9 cost, it's a legendary, and it's fire, 11/7. If it dies and it's your turn, you draw 7 cards and reduce their cost by 1. At the end of your turn, you discard your hand. I think that this is really slow cost-wise. I I think it's a lot worse than Shugo's Hook Sword in a lot of ways. I think maybe it's a build around, try to get its cost reduced, but not as much for draft. I would say it's like a 2. You're very rarely going to want this. Yeah, I can't see myself taking this except for the fact that it's a rare. Alluring Kieran. It's a 1-drop 1/1 with flying, so it's kind of like a humbug. Spells and weapons cost 1 more. I don't know how important that is in draft specifically. It might slow down your opponent, but it might just as easily slow you down. Then it's got a mastery too. You play all power cards from your hand. It's kind of game to game dependent, and it's a legendary Kieran. It's kind of game to game dependent, but I would say this card's a 3 out of 10. Not especially alluring, ironically. I think it's got some potential in constructed just because it's got so many different abilities. But I don't know. I think it's a 3 out of 10 for draft. Like, I mean, you'd take it every once in a while, but it's only slightly better than a humbug, and sometimes it actually actively makes your hand harder to play out. Let's go to Calibrate. It's a 1-cost spell. Draw a relic or oh wait, we just jumped into time. So noteworthy, we're in time now. Alright, Calibrate. Draw a relic or power card from the top 5 cards of your deck, and you put the rest on the bottom. I think this is a 3 out of 10. Gets you a little bit of potential, but it's a build around. It's a build around, maybe build around 4. I don't think it goes in a lot of decks. You got a lot of relics, and they're good, and you don't mind, like, you're running like 17 power, like if you're just like stacked on relics and power, essentially, I think it's pretty good. But if not, I think it's like a 3 out of 10. You're not really super concerned with getting it. It'll come around. Like, you'll find another one. Crack the Earth. It's basically like a... Okay, so this is what it does. Play a 1/1 cultist fast spell for 1 cost. You swap a card with a 5 cost in your market. Alright? So the market thing isn't like too big of a concern, because I mean, when it happens that you got something you don't want to run main board and it's in your market, it happens, but it's kind of rare. Now the 1/1 cultist for 1 at fast speed is what we're looking at here, and I say that card is like a 3. Honestly, a 3, maybe a 4, maybe 3.5. 3.5. Pause for reflection. 1 cost fast spell, put a unit or relic with cost 3 or less into its owner's hand, and you gain 3 life. So it's kind of like a little tempo hamper. Ooh, didn't mean to yawn. Tempo hamper. And it's alright. I think it kind of buys you that tempo, but I'm trying to figure out how much you would be wanting tempo. You'd like have to have a deck that you just need to kind of keep it in the opponent, and they need to be running units that are relics that you want to pop back into their hand for a minute, and you need the life gain. Like, it's kind of like you're losing card advantage for a tempo. So I think it's like a 3. Another 3. Precision Plunge gives one of your units with flying. If your unit already has flying, it gets deadly and killer for a spell, 1 cost time, and it's a common. Now, I think if you're running like, you know, like 6 or 7 flyers, and you're really like, they're small flyers for some reason, and you just like are running it as the potential like answer, it's okay. I think it's a build around 3. Not very good. In my eyes, it's not very good. Shield of the Line. This card gets me excited. I like the card. Now at the same time, it's not super powerful. It's a 1 cost 1/1 with charge. It's a Minotaur and it's rare. Once per turn, you can pay 4 to give it plus attack and plus health equal to the highest health among units in your void this turn. You got no units in your void, he doesn't even have the ability to do that. Let's say the problem is it's not super great on turn 1, 2, 3. Because you're not gonna have anything in your void or the power, like the power to actually activate it, and it's just a 1-drop 1/1. It does have a little bit of potential late game where you're able to get that bonus, and maybe you're getting an average of +2 bonus for 4. Not great, but if you have no other sinks, it's great. The only thing this card suffers for in this format specifically is there's lots of power sinks. So I'm going to give this card, at least in this format, a 4. Not something you're really looking for. Sky Worshipper. 1 cost 0/4 Cultist. You could pay 4 to give one of your units with flying +1/+1. It's slow, it's dirtily, it's a 4. It doesn't really do much, maybe a build around 4.5. Alright. Inner Peace Ascendant. 2 cost 1/3 flying and vulnerable to damage on your turn. And ultimate, you can pay 4 to draw a relic from your void. I like this card a lot. I don't think it's super good. I don't think that invulnerable to damage on your turn is relevant unless you're being aggressive. And I do think the draw a relic, because it can be a relic weapon from your void as far as I know. So that's really solid, and it's also a 2-drop 1/3 flyer to kind of slow your opponent down, so you have the opportunity to make big, like, slower plays like that. It is kind of a speed bump, and as long as it doesn't get removed, it can be a pinger. I think this card is 6. No. Yes, a 5.5. I think this card's a 5.5. Alright, so next card, we're going, where did I lost my place? Oh, we just started on this one. 2-drop 6/6 dinosaur. It's called Lurking Raptors, and it can't attack the enemy player or block. Wow. You need a rectifier. You need rectifier, or you need some way to give it killer. That's how you interact with your opponent with this card. I think because of that, it's a 2, just like its cost. Magnificent Stranger. This card is fantastic. It's a 2 cost, 2/3 Stranger. And whenever one or more strangers attack, reduce the cost of the top card of their owner's deck by 2. It is a great stat line, and that ability is not a 0 ability. It's a great solid ability. In fact, you don't want your opponent getting it because it makes their deck run more smoothly. Gets you a really big, like, burst of tempo out with your cards, especially if you're getting card advantage off those cards. It just gets insane. And constructed, it does amazing things too. Like, it is one of the reasons Strangers and Constructed is so solid, and it kind of like is the glue that, you know, keeps the Strangers alive in draft too, I would say. So I think Magnificent Stranger is an easy 6. Platinum Kieran. One more, please. Please hold for gum. Yeah, you'll notice in my videos I definitely do chew gum. Something I enjoy. Makes me relax. 2 cost 1/2 Kieran. It's called Platinum Kieran, if I didn't already mention that. It has flying, and it has Mastery 2, create and draw an Eternity Core. Now, I've messed up in gameplay and thought, okay, I'm going to hit him, I'm going to get +2 maximum power. It doesn't happen like that. 1, that card would be completely overpowered, and 2, it just doesn't work like that. It says draw, not put into play. So with that in mind, I would say it's kind of decent. Let's say it's a 4. Maybe I'm underrating it, but I think it's a 5. I think it's a 4.5. Shardbinder. 2 cost 3/1 mage with Overwhelm, and it's uncommon. The first relic ability you use spellcraft or activate each turn costs 3 less. I would say it's a 7. It's straight up a 7. It's a really solid. It's above and beyond like what you'd expect from a card like this. It just has everything you're looking for in a 2 cost 3/1 and more. Earth Conjuring. It's still good, even though its effect isn't like outstanding. The ability for it to invoke is kind of a big boon. But it's 3 cost, time, fast spell. Give yourself or a unit plus health equal to the highest health unit in your void. Then it's got Decimate, Invoke, time. It's the time conjuring, Earth Conjuring, you know. Uncommon. I would say it's a 5. It's playable, but it's not like, oh my gosh, I have to have this every time. Like, you can pass it up for something better, you know? Which is all these cards, but I'm just saying it's a 5. Graveyard Graveyard. Grave Watch Ancestor. 3 cost, 2/3, Elf Cultist at common. Ultimate, you can pay 6 to give Grave Watch Ancestor plus attack and plus health equal to the highest health among units in your void. I think this card is a 5. It is completely playable, and it's got a nice little abilities there. Humbug Nest. 3 cost, time, fast spell, play 2 1/1 Humbugs with flying. This card's a 6. I would say it's easily a 6 card. A 6 in my opinion. That's what I think about this card. It could be a kill spell. It can push for a little bit of damage if your opponent doesn't have a flyer out there. It can trade with other flyers, you know, which is another added benefit to its removal package. Weapons go great on it. Board buffs go great on it. And in Constructed, I love this card in Elysian Flyers. I usually splash Shadow with my Elysian Flyers deck. But I think it's solid. I think it's a 6. Did I say 6.5? Yeah. 6.5 is final answer. Rectifier. 3 cost, 2/1 Cultist at common. Summon, you may silence another unit corrupted too. 8. It's an 8 out of 10. Easily. Really, really good card. Take them when you see them. It's just really good little toolbox. The silence effect is great. The body's okay for the, you know, whole package. And they get to do it again. What you're wanting to do with the card, it does. And even like has synergy with other, like, you know, with your, let's see, silences curses if you get cursed, as an emergency, gets rid of an effect you just can't handle, you don't have an answer for, sacrifice synergy to some extent, you know, it helps. So yeah. Another legendary here, Totem Circle. It's a relic, 3 cost, time. At the end of your turn, draw a card for each Totemite you played this turn. Tribute, you get to put 5 2/2 tough totems into the top 10 cards of your deck. I think I pulled this off in an Invoke once, and I was like too late, but it seemed like a great effect. Like, it seemed like it could have gotten me there, if I remember correctly. So, a little bit of a Totemite synergy. I think it's kind of a weird card. It's not bad though. Like, you have to get that tribute off for it to be able to do really anything that you're wanting to do. They're 1 cost 2/2s for the record, in case anybody was wondering. They're 1 cost 2/2s, and they are Totas. Tough Totas is what they call them. It's a really hard card to rate. It's kind of a strange one. I would say that this card, it's like a, say it's a 4. I think a Totem Circle's a 4. Build around 6. Yeah. Turn back time. 3 cost, time, common spell, draw a card from your void, and it gets void bound. And I would say that this card is a 5. Just get the best card in your graveyard. A little bit of like searching, kind of like a graveyard tutor effect. Any card is really the kicker here that like makes it stand out. But it's not like so insane. It's not like a card like, oh my gosh, turn back time, I have to have this card. Because it does have like a real tempo cost to it. You're drawing a specific card for 3. Waystone Gate. Pay 3 to draw a sigil of your choice from your deck. After the 3rd use, sack the Waystone Gate, and when Waystone Gate dies, it has the Entomb effect. If it's your turn, you get to play an 8/8 giant. So noteworthy, if they do ruin it or disjunction it, that giant is gone. I just noticed that right now after reading the card aloud for the first time. Like that kind of makes you notice stuff sometimes. It's a great card still, even with that factor. I think it's a 7.5. Solid card. It's very dirtily, very slow, but very effective. Let's go on to the next card. Not too much to say about that other than it just says fixing. It does a lot of the things you want to do. That's one of the reasons time is considered such a great faction in this set so far. Ancestral Oasis. This is a rare. It's a 4 cost, time, relic. It gives you +2 maximum power, and then you can pay 2 and sacrifice the Ancestral Oasis to invoke time. I think that this is a lot better than the 3 cost, the I think it's like Earth Conjuring. I think this is better by a good bit. I think this is a 6. I think it's really solid. Now, the maximum power isn't like mind-blowing, but just the versatility on that kind of card, I think it's also better than that. There was a Spellcraft that returned something to their hand and gave you +1 maximum power. I do not remember. It cast Lost in the Mist, though. I think this is better than that, too. So I think it's solid. I think it's definitely a solid card. It's slow, but it's solid. Arcane Restraint, another rare. Okay, so it's 4 cost and time. Cursed Relic. The cursed player can't play more than 1 spell each turn. When they draw a card, you gain life. F. Straight up, or now I'm using letters. It's so bad I had to give it an F. No, it's a 1. It's actually like a 0.5. It's so bad. So bad. If there's a 0 on the scale, it gets a 0. Nah, not a 0. Not a 0. Like, no. Like, it technically does do something, and it doesn't actively hurt you, other than the fact that you would rather run a sigil instead of it. Yeah. So, I'd say it's a 1. Gentle Grazer. 4 cost, time, 3/2 with ambush. Summon. Play a random non-power card with cost 2 or less from your deck and as corrupted 6. I wonder why it's like considered corrupted. Is the fruit it's eating gonna turn it evil or something? I don't understand. Maybe it's having a nightmare. Anyways, I think it's a great card except for that influence. The influence really hampers it, but the influence balances it at the same time. And if you're in heavy time, that's a great thing. It's a great card at that point. I would say that it is a 6. But you kind of have to worry about that influence. So maybe like 5.5. It's definitely a playable card. It's really interesting, good value. Yeah, and if it's there, it's a legendary, and you take it, and you're in time, like boom, you're going to be running it. So I think it's easily a 6. Yeah. Grodov's Burden, man, this card is so scary to see. It just lands down, and you're just like, oh man, devastating. Especially if they have a board. It's a 5 cost, time. Your single faction units have Exalted. Spellcraft 3, play Bury the Past. Man, if it wasn't enough that they're getting all their units Exalted that are single faction, it also removes something and shuffles it into your deck. So no chance of getting any recursion or anything. And then, but wait, there's more. Pay 5 to draw a card, and then if it's a single faction unit, you put it on the battlefield. This card is crazy value. It's insane. I would say it's worth like trying to push for that influence. A lot more than a Gentle Grazer. It's not a 6 right here. I think this is an 8. The reason it's an 8 is that influence cost. That's what's holding it back. But still, it's solid. Grodov Stranger. 6 cost, time, 6/6. I say this is a 10. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I think it's better than Grodov's Burden. And this is why. It's a stranger, it's legendary. You know, if you see it, it's like, I would love to draft that. Whoop. I think it's a 10. And maybe that, like, I'm kind of biased because I see it a lot in Constructed, and I own 0. So I'm kind of on that, like, biased end of, like, oh my god, this thing is so powerful. I don't think it's overpowered. It got nerfed. It was overpowered. But I don't think it's super overpowered now. I think it's pushed at this point. Now, when a player plays a stranger, including Grodov Stranger, they play a random sigil from their deck. Okay, harmless enough. There's more. When Grodov Stranger attacks, shuffle a void of your choice into its owner's deck. But wait, then you draw 2 cards. Oh, this card is such good value. 6 drop 6/6 is pretty good. And then with all this abilities and the fact that it's a stranger, you have stranger synergies, I think this is like a 10 easily. If I'm exaggerating, let me know in the comments below. But I like to hear your thoughts on Grodov Stranger, and I'll chat back and forth with you. Nahid's Desolation. Now, I love this card. I've been running this in Elysian Flyers lately, and I think it's pretty awesome. 6 cost spell. You draw 3 cards, but you can make it a 4 drop if you exhaust the unit. So 4 cost, exhaust the unit, draw 3 cards. I really like this card. I think it's a 7 because you have enough time to play it in this format. Not every game, but most of the time you're going to have enough time to play it. Especially late game, it just refills your hand. It gives you the extra potential to outvalue your opponent. So I think it's a 7. Sunset Enforcer. 6 cost, time, 5/5 pledge. When you sacrifice another unit, Sunset Enforcer gets +2/+2. It's a giant cultist common. Oh, I think it's playable. I like the fact that it has pledge. So it's like, even in a sacrifice deck, it's probably gonna be a 7/7 if you set everything up kind of right. But it can be crazy. It can be like an 11/11. I think it can be 11/11. Yeah, it can be an 11/11. So like sometimes or more. But usually at that point it's 11/11. You know, that's enough. Unless you need that lethal and they don't have anything to block you. I think it's a 5. I think it's playable, but you're not like going crazy to get it. If you don't have a lot of sacrifice energy, it's not super great. It's just kind of like a meh. It's like a 3.5 or a 4. It's like, okay, I'll take it, but it's not what I was looking for. But it fills up the 6-drop role. And this game, this format kind of goes later in, so you'll easily be able to obtain that 6. But there's better 6-drops out there. If you don't get one and you happen to take this in a pack where you really didn't have any other picks, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be happy. You're gonna be like, okay, thank gosh, I got some late cards. But you'd much rather have Bodhi and Rocks. It's a 7-drop time rare giant. 9/9. It's got pledge as well. And at the end of your turn, if you have no cards in your hand, you draw Bodhi and Rocks from your deck. So if you could just get rid of your hand, you just get to draw Bodhi and Rocks. It's awesome, awesome card. I think you should take this with some confidence. I think it's an 8 out of 10. Okay. Corpse Bloom. 7 cost, time, 7/7 endurance. Summon, put an enemy unit into its owner's hand, and corrupted 3. This is kind of like the Equivocate on a Sodi Spellshaper, but instead of being on a weapon, it's on a giant creature. It reminds me of Grodov's Stranger in some ways, but it's really, really bad against like your summon abilities on other creatures. Endurance is a nice touch though, and it's an uncommon. It's the Mandrake. It's got corrupted 3, so you get to repeat that effect. I think that Corpse Bloom you can get to 7, and I think it's a 6. I think it's a 6. Alright, Justice. 1 cost, Justice. It's a Deafening Word, fast spell. Silence unit costs 3 or less, and each copy in its owner's hand, deck, and void. I think it's a 2. I don't think it's especially noteworthy either. Ensnare. Kill an attacking enemy unit with flying. It's a fast spell. I think it's playable. If like there was a best 2 out of 3, I think it would be a sideboard card, and I think other than that, it's a 3, maybe even a 2. It's not super like fantastic, but I mean you're going to be playing against flying more likely than not, so it's usually not a dead card, but it can be a dead card in some games, like literally, like either they didn't draw a flyer, you didn't draw a flyer, like just it could be a problem. But it's a 1 cost fast spell, so you can't sneeze out. I'd say it's a 3. Fearless Crescendo. Or Injustice, if I haven't said that already. Alright. Give a unit flying. Then it's got the market, switch for a 3 cost. Flying fast spell can mess up your opponents. I think it's a 2. In this format. In draft, I mean. 2 cost, Justice, Nightmare Paladin, 3/1. Okay, hard to cast. Already going to mention that. Going back. Your curses can't be killed, and Elos is invulnerable to damage while the enemy player and each of their units are cursed. Kind of a really hard ability to pull off, unless it's a hard ability to pull off. So it's hard to cast. 2 drop, 3/1. I think they're a 3. Elos is a 3. Monument Curator. 2 cost, Justice, 1/1 Tinker, plus attack and plus health equal to the highest cost among your relics. I think this card has some potential. I think it's a 4, kind of a little bit of a build around, but I think you kind of take like 1 or 2 early to kind of like feel the waters out. I think you should count it as a 4 though. with taking into consideration build around is when you're going to be running it. Outcast Elite. Man, I love the alternate art of this card. I'm sure you've heard it before. Actually, there it is. Outcast Elite. Aegis 2/1 for 2, and its Justice is unseen. When you play another unseen, that unseen gets a random battle skill. Woo! This is a really, really spicy card right here. It's great and constructed. And then if you got Unseen Shell in draft, I think it's pretty decent. Normally, I mean, just the fact that it's like got unnerf Crown Watch stat, like stat line. Doesn't have Warcry or anything, but that Unseen ability isn't nothing. I think that makes it a 5. I think it's a playable card. And it's a little bit got of a build around factor. Siege Provisions. Now this card is pretty good. Siege Provisions is a 2-cost relic. Once per turn you can pay 3 to give one of your units +2/+2 and endurance this turn. Spellcraft 1, you get to play Endure. What does Endure do? It's give one of your units invulnerable to damage this turn. Okay. So I would say you pick it. That's 5. It's 5 for me. You don't want 2 of them, but it's really good. It's got some really decent effects right there. Steal a Stranger. 2 cost 1/3. When one or more of your strangers attack the top unit of their owner's deck, gets a random battle skill. It's a stranger. I think it's okay. It's not like super push, super good, anything like that. I think it's a 4, maybe 4.5. I think it's playable, but kind of below average, I would say, for the set. Timidity. It's a 2-drop curse. The cursed unit can't attack. It's really more of a control-y card, but it is removal. I would say it's 5 out of 10 removal though. Touch of Purity. 2-drop fast spell, give one of your units lifesteal, then give a unit, weapon, or spell in your hand lifesteal. I think it's a 3. Not super fond of this card. It can get you out of some really bad situations against an aggressive deck, but I don't think you're going to have to worry about that too much. If you stick it onto a big creature, you're doing pretty good. If you stick it onto a big creature, then you have a big creature in your hand that you're about to play, you're doing really good with it. Willbreaker. 2 cost 1/2 unseen. It's Justice. It's got double damage, and when you summon it, play a -1 curse, -1 attack curse on each enemy unit with flying. Also, it's got Corrupted 3 to be able to do that again. I believe that this card is a 5. Straight up just a 5. I don't think there's it's not too special in power level, but it is a very interesting card. Jadehorn. 3 cost Justice 3/3 with Warcry Pledge, and when you summon it, you get 3 armor, and your avatar can attack an additional time this turn. It's got that Corrupted 6 action. I think this is a 6. Real awesome card. Real awesome card. It's kind of being held back by its influence requirements, but I don't think that's too big of a factor. Kodosh's Armor. This card is sweet. 3 cost Justice Relic. Your exalted weapons get played on each of your single faction units instead. Now you need some solid things to be going on for this card to actually be going off. It's more of a constructed card, I feel like. Constructed kind of a synergy deck. It's also got Spellcraft 3 though, so you could be paying 6 to get your total. So Spellcraft 3, it's a 3 cost relic. You get Zolta Convoy, which is 2 2/2s with Aegis and Endurance. So that right there, 6 costs for 2 2/2 bodies with Aegis and Endurance. That card would be a 4. The exalted weapons get played on each of your single faction units, puts that at 4.5 in my mind. Now here's the kicker. This is where the card gets its main, in my opinion, strength from. You can pay 4 to give one of your single faction units +5/+5 this turn. Now that could push a board stall. So that, in my mind, puts this legendary relic at 6 out of 10. Kodosh's Stranger. 3 cost Justice 2/2. When a player plays a Stranger, the top unit or weapon of their deck gets plus attack plus health equal to that Stranger's attack and health. When Kodosh's Stranger attacks, you double his attack and health. This card is terrifying when you're on the other end of it. It's just like, please, please. You can't stop it. It's not an empower effect. It just happens on attack. You have to get this thing removed, and you got to get it removed early. I think that Kodosh Stranger, it's a legendary, so it's not going to happen a lot, but I think it's an 8 out of 10. This card just blows me away. It's so good. Even just playing the card down gets you value, because it includes itself. Master's Blade, 3 cost 1/1 weapon. You get +1/+1. It gives +1/+1 for each of the wielder's battle skills, so that's really solid. Then it's got the Spellcraft 1 for fall short, so destroy a unit with no battle skills. That's solid. Even if that was it, the 4-drop for all that, boom, playable rare. That's a good card. Mastery 7. So if you've gotten your creature with all of its buffs from the Master's Blade to deal 7 damage total over its turns while surviving, you get to invoke Justice. And I think that makes this card a 7 out of 10 after all of that. Okay. Resounding Shockwave. This is an uncommon 3-cost Justice spell. You stun each enemy unit with flying, and you may exhaust a unit to play Resounding Shockwave for 2 less. If you have a heavy flyer deck, I think this is kind of worth running just to be able to clear the skies and push in. I don't think that's going to happen a lot. I don't think it's going to be that great in a lot of turns. So for me, this card's a 2 out of 10. Sky King Storyteller, 3 cost, 2/3 Justice, Oni, Warcry, which is a nice little boon, handcuff Oni. Mastery 6, you get to put an 8/8 Sword of the Sky King into your deck. I think that's an interesting ability, especially with the ability to Bladecraft that sword out into your hand, and then hopefully you can play it. So for that reason, I would say Sky King Storyteller, all said, is a 5. It's a perfectly playable card. Wind Conjuring, 3 cost Justice fast spell. Ready a unit, it gets +4/+4 and endurance this turn. You can also decimate to invoke Justice. This card is mind-blowingly powerful. It's an 8 out of 10. It's just really great. You can break permafrost with it. It just gives you that push for the win. It's a kill spell if you use it as a trick right. And then here we go. Let's go Zolt to Exile. 3 cost Justice. Oops. 3 cost 2/2 Exile with Aegis and Endurance. And I think that this card is I would say 4 out of 10. A little bit less than playable, but not very bad. The reason it's kind of like lower than it would be in other sets is because there's just not a lot of playable weapons. Dive Bomb, 4 cost Justice fast spell. Give 2 of your units +1 attack, +4 health, and flying this turn. What do we got here? I think we're going to say 7 out of 10 on this one. It's a double trick. The fast spell just pushes it over the edge of being a 6.5. Promising Pupil. This is a 4 cost Justice 2/2 Unseen with Exalted. It's got Mastery 2. It gets a random battle skill. I think this card is kind of tricky to play, and I think it's a 4 out of 10. Purge Driver. This is a 4 cost Justice rare Paladin. It's a 2/2. Summon, silence, and kill an enemy unit with more than 1 faction. It's got Corrupted 5. I think this card is kind of delicate, but even if it does get destroyed, you get another chance to do that. People are going to want to waste 2 removal spells just to take away your chance to kill a multi-faction card. So I think that because of that, this card's a 5. It seems like it might have like a lot of really powerful effects going on, but that stat line's kind of weak, and the silence is meh. It's okay. It's not always going to really matter unless they got a solid Entomb effect or some way to recur it. So I think it's a 5. It's playable, but it's not like if you see a really great comment, I don't think you should rush over to get Purge Driver. I may be wrong though. 4 cost Justice. We got Zoltan, Arbalest. It's 1 attack, 4 armor with Warcry. Relic weapon. Summon, get +2. This gets +2 attack this turn. And then when you draw it, that fate effect says you gain an armor. So this is a strangely built card. The first turn you play it, if everything went like fine, it's a 3/5 for 4 with Warcry. So I think this card gets a 5. It's playable, but it's not extraordinary, and it's not super underwhelming. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's a little bit better than that. Emerald Maw. 5 cost Justice, 0 with 9 armor, relic weapon. At the start of your turn, sacrifice Emerald Maw to play an Emerald Incarnation with attack and health equal to your armor. Woo! That's a lot of card right there. That's a lot of text for what it does. I don't think it's especially crazy. I think it's fine. And I would personally say, it's legendary, so it's not going to come up too often. I would say it's like a 4. It can be really strong. I'd say it's a 4 out of 10 though. Where were we? Oh, right here. Enchanted Plate Mail. 5 cost, 3 attack, 3 armor, relic weapon with pledge, spellcraft 2 to inspire. That gives you the top unit of your weapon or top unit or weapon of your deck gets +1/+1, and you get to draw a card. So that's a nice bit of value you can get up to the spellcraft. It's not like a really big weapon, but at least you're not doing nothing on your 7 when you cast it like that. So I think it's solid. Where do I rate it? I would say 5 out of 10. I think it's playable. Okay, we're gonna finish up Justice real quick here, and we'll do a part 2. Rageheart Paladin. 5 cost Justice, 4/2. Lifesteal plus health equal to your highest cost among your relics. It's a Paladin at common. I think this card is pretty decent. It can have some really big boost, and I think it should in draft a good bit of the time when you're running him. And it can be a nice defender for your relic weapon if that's what is giving him the health boost. You can have your weapon, if it's a relic weapon, destroyed at instant speed with like a burn spell, like a seer. So taking all that into consideration, I give Rageheart Paladin I think like 5.5. It's just barely above playable, and it's kind of like a build around grade at 6. Kamoni Dusk Rider Legendary Paladin. It's 6-drop 6/6 Justice. It's got endurance. When you summon it, you ready your units, and the enemy player can't play spells until your next turn. It has corrupted too to be able to do that again. 6-drop 6/6 endurance. That's great. Everything else after that is gravy. I like that the enemy can't play spells during until your next turn. That's just crazy to me on a card that's already playable, plus corrupt 2 to be able to do it once more. And I believe that card would be a 7 out of 10. Kimona gets a 7 from me. Mithril Paladin. 6 cost Justice 3/4 with Exalted. It's an Elf Paladin. Mastery 5. You get to play a 3/4 relic weapon. I think you'll get the Exalted, or not Exalted. I think you'll get the Mastery off a good bit of the time. So when you can, when possible, that's a really solid weapon to be throwing down on the board. So I think that she's definitely a 5 out of 10. I would go as far to say 6 out of 10. And the last one for this episode, check in tomorrow. Check in tomorrow for the rest of this review. Thank you for your patience. 6 cost Justice Cursed Relic. Restrained action. When the curse player plays a unit, play a -1 attack curse on it. And at the end of their turn, you get to play, and this is whether or not they played a unit. This is just at the end of their turn. Every turn, you get to play a 1-cost unit from your deck and increase its ability by 1. I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Don't quote me on that. This card is awesome. I think it's really solid in draft even. It's really slow, pretty dirty, coming out on 6. So I think it is, you pick it as a 5.5 out of 10. Thank you so much. I'll be wrapping this up soon. So just tune in for the Primal and Shadow and Multifaction and Colorless. Thank you so much for your patience. If you like the video and you like this type of content, hit the like and subscribe so you can keep getting these on your subscriptions feed. And it also helps me out. So thank you so much if you already have subscribed and if you're going to subscribe. And even if you're just coming in for, clicking that like button and watching the content, that helps too. So thanks for everything you can do. If you're feeling extra special, ring my bell.